I remember in the lead up to my A-levels, I felt incredibly nervous.
I felt really nervous and I was quite a stress head going into my exams.
I was very stressed. I think I was quite emotional at times.
I was a bit nervous. I think it'd be weird if you weren't nervous, if you didn't have that sort of apprehension in your stomach, because they are important.
I felt very nervous. It's a stressful time and it feels very overwhelming, like there's not enough hours in the day.
I remember feeling really anxious. Generally you do feel really anxious, but I think it was different for each subject depending on how prepared I was.
Petrified, absolutely petrified, because I figured that all this hard work that I've been doing over the past couple of years, I was scared that if I was to step into the exam I'd go blank.
I felt the pressure really got to me in many ways. I think partly because I really cared and I really wanted to do well, which was a really good thing because it pushed me to do better.
I felt A-levels were particularly challenging, so I really understand what year 13 are going through. I felt like I was always pulled in all different directions for my A-levels preparing. So I really had to work hard at getting the grades, and you know, as a teacher now that might not seem like I had to do that, but I had to put in lots and lots of hours of revision.
During my exams, I used to cram a lot of my studies. The weeks just before the exam, the days before the exams, even the nights before the exam. And what I used to find myself in the exam is memory used to go blank, you know, so I couldn't remember a lot of the stuff.
So yeah, I think petrified is quite an accurate word to describe how I felt. But also, I would say the light at the end of the tunnel for me just kept me going, that all my hard work would hopefully pay off.
I definitely had to lean on my teachers for that emotional support to get through it, because it meant so much to me, hence the pressure that I put on myself.
But at the same time, when it actually came down to the May and June and sitting them, I was quite relaxed because I'd done the hard work, I'd done the revision, and I was confident that I knew my stuff.
But little and often is what I say, you know? Hour of each subject every night, 5-6 days a week. Slowly but surely you'll get there.
And essentially just had to put the hard work in. Like, it wasn't something that came naturally to me. Had to really work hard to learn all the material.
So it was really difficult, and I had to really manage those anxieties and feelings that I was experiencing at the time. So I think having a supportive network of people was really important at that time for me.
Having that sort of nervous energy, but also being quite confident because I knew I'd put the work in and put the hours in the weeks and months in the run-up.
It's overwhelming, I know that, but it's also very doable.
I feel a mixture of feelings really. The first thing is I feel proud. I feel proud of what everybody's achieved and seeing you all come so far. You know, starting year 12 with not a clue about psychology, most of you hadn't studied it before, to now, you know, you're all our year 13 psychologists, and I do feel proud you walking into that exam hall to show all the knowledge that you've got.
I feel just as scared as they probably are about taking them. I think because we go on a journey together, especially the year 13s that I've had for so many years. I've never wanted a bunch of people to succeed so much as these year 13s. So I feel just as scared as they probably are, and just as worried because I want them to do well.
Equally as nervous, not emotional though. I get nervous for them because I appreciate how challenging this is. With the assessments being linear, it's a lot of pressure in terms of remembering the content and then being able to demonstrate the skills through their written work. So whilst I appreciate how nervous they might be feeling, and I do think that's totally normal and actually a good thing to be feeling like that, I'm excited for them to show off what they know and can do, because they can do it. They absolutely can.
The year 13s are doing really well. I think they're putting in a lot of work. I think they're on track to get good results if they keep putting in the work. I mean, they're going to have the longest summer of their life coming up. Something I say every year to the year 13s. It's a sprint to the finish line. I know it seems like a lot and it's overwhelming, but you're going to have a nice long break on the other side, and it's going to feel really good in August when you come here and know that you did your best.
For the kids' exams, the same. I feel stressed. I just remember like last year, the night before, just being awake, because you just start thinking, of all the possible things that could come up. Are they prepared? Which they will be. But it's just, all the possibilities, not sleeping. Just generally anxious for them as well. Just, hoping that they do what they've been working towards all year.
I do feel nervous for you as well, because obviously I don't know what's going to be coming up on the exam. So I do feel some nerves for you, that I want you to all be okay. I want you to all do your best. But I also feel excited in a way. It's an exciting time, essentially, so that you can show all your knowledge, you can show everything that you've learned and go in there and absolutely smash the exam. The ones that worked the best for me was essentially condensing all my notes down into mind maps of keywords. I remember having different pieces of coloured card, making mind maps on there, condensing my notes down into kind of like A4 sheets of key facts. I actually used to sit there and kind of say it out loud, which I think my parents kind of thought, what's she doing up there? But I was kind of talking out loud and just saying it without looking at the sheet. Essentially that look, cover, write check. So I'd look at it, try and revise it, cover it up, and then I would say it out loud to see whether it had actually stuck.
I think in terms of what didn't work, I just overworked myself in such a short space of time. I felt that I needed to dedicate every minute of time I had spare to revision, and I ended up burning out. I lost patience with a lot of people. I wasn't a nice person to be around. So I think definitely for me, I overworked myself and I burnt out.
What I started to do more at university was actually find lots of questions and come up with as many possible answers for them as I could. And I think what I realised was that at A-level, I didn't do that because I saw exam questions and immediately thought I had to practice answering them. Whereas actually what worked for me at degree level was just planning out lots of different questions. And when I went into the exam, not only did I feel prepared for it, but actually it acted as a real trigger and gave me a real confidence boost in the exam itself, because I felt, I've seen this question or something really similar before. So I could immediately kind of pull that plan from my mind and get into writing as soon as possible. So I think practicing or planning as many questions as possible is definitely something I would recommend, and that has worked for me.
So the revision strategies that worked for me were really, I suppose, mind maps, large sheets of paper with the key idea in the middle, and then just kind of branching off anything that was relevant, trying to kind of group ideas, theories, studies. And actually in the exam, and even when I was at university, I remembered where I'd place things on the sheet, and it helped me to make those connections and links and to kind of develop that analysis.
Time before the exam, I would start looking at a topic and then space out some time, a week, maybe a few days, and then revisit that same topic and help me remember those things that I'd forgotten. And I would infuse a lot of active recall while I was revisiting this topic. And the active recall, what it does is makes you uncomfortable. You forget a lot of things and your brain starts working really hard. I find that the harder my brain works, the more it gets ingrained into my memory, and I think that's been quite successful.
The ones I used are fairly traditional. Obviously, I'm quite old, so I'm going back to a pre-digital age, so an analogue era. I found mind maps, spider diagrams on large pieces of paper, so a big A3 pad. I remember going to WH Smith's in Romford and buying large sketch pads and doing mind maps and spider diagrams on there. and practice questions as well. I did Latin A-level, so practice translations of unseen translations that I would get off my teachers.
I kind of had to take a step back, and I've kind of realised that taking a break is okay. So when it came to revision techniques, what I tended to do was arrange my time in little segments. So rather than revising for hours upon end, I just did short segments of time. I broke it down, I gave myself breaks without trying to be guilty and feel guilty for taking breaks. But for me, that is what worked, having a schedule and doing little bits in chunks rather than all at once.
I didn't do well with the textbook. I didn't do well with numbers, or I do well with numbers. I don't do well with words, especially a lot of them. I watched a lot of lectures, a lot of YouTube videos where I could find content on the A-level courses. Like, there are a lot of YouTube videos where someone will actually go through the entire course for you in like 12, a playlist of 12 different lectures. And so I always like to see somebody talking in front of me. I was very audio and visual, and I'd make notes as I was watching the video. And then, so I didn't really do well with the textbook. I needed something to come alive. I was very audio visual, so I kind of played on that.
I didn't realize this till I got to university, but also auditory really worked for me. So I used to record myself revising content, and then on the bus to uni or just going shopping, I just listened to it over and over again. But I tried to make it interesting. So in the recording, I would change my voice and make it sound like, just sound like a story almost. And I think that really works.
One thing that perhaps has a modern parallel, because one thing I did do as well, was I would, using an old-fashioned dictaphone, ask your parents, kids, what one of those is, I would record myself speaking my notes and key points, and then I would play them on my Walkman and listen to it on the bus going to school. So, I know that for my history students, I put a few podcasts on Teams, and I think that's like a more modern, more accessible equivalent that students can just put a podcast on. So, there's one that I just found recently on the Reagan presidency, which is perfect for paper 1, section C, on the history paper. It's on Teams, it's on Spotify. You can just download it, listen to it on the way to school, on the way home to school. It's an hour where you're just absorbing information and revising information in a more relaxed and perhaps more fun and entertaining way. The podcasts are quite fun and entertaining. So that'd be something I think you should definitely try, because speaking my notes out loud and then listening to them back was something that I tried and it worked quite well for me.
Flashcards did not work as well for me. And I was always quite uncomfortable with someone testing me. I needed to just be on my own and to just do it. So that worked.
Although kind of early preparation is really, really important, actually it's finding that balance between preparing but also just having that time so you don't have the burnout. And I think in terms of overcoming that, I'll be honest, I do still struggle with it sometimes, but it's making sure you have that break, that I actually think about what I want to do and plan my work around that, rather than planning what I want to do around the work that I've got to do.
So the biggest challenge that I found was the volume of material to learn, but it was essentially putting the time in and putting the work in. And even though A-levels felt like this long dark tunnel and I was never going to get to the end, there was never going to be light at the end of the tunnel, literally putting in lots and lots of work on an evening, on a weekend, taking all that time to study. Didn't have much of a social life because I was really focusing on my revision. But then you have that massive long summer afterwards, so it all kind of becomes worth it, because you then reap the rewards of kind of putting all that emphasis into study. You reap the rewards then when you get your results in summer, and then you've got a long massive summer ahead of you where you don't have to do any revision or any work at all.
I think one of the main challenges that I had was juggling all the different subjects. I know it's only 3 or 4 A-levels that people are studying, but there's just so much content and so much analysis in each one of those subjects. So for me, one of the biggest challenges was trying to organise my time so that I gave the right amount of time to every subject. So what I tended to do to kind of overcome that challenge was every Sunday it became a ritual of organising my week. So I would dedicate a certain day or a certain segment of time to a particular subject. And that really, really worked for me. I think rather than just saying, oh, today I'm going to revise biology, today I'm going to revise English, I specifically wrote down the topics and the different modules that I was going to revise on those days. And it just felt really nice to kind of tick those things off, so I knew by the end of that week that is what I covered.
I think that the biggest challenge for me was just that self-doubt and the pressure that I'd put on myself, but that I was feeling from home, you know, because naturally your parents want you to do well, and I really didn't want to let them down. So I think because of how I was feeling, I wasn't very good at being around people. So I would go to my lessons, of course, but then I would go home immediately and I would, you know, sit down and revise and think strategically about what I'm doing, when and why. Being around other people and them talking about what they know and think made me more anxious. So I had to remove myself and just really think about myself and what it was I needed to prioritise. And I did it. And that worked for me.
Oh my God, there's so many other challenges. I'm in a house with four actual siblings and two step siblings. So I had 6 kids in my house. It was chaos at all hours of the day. So, you know, I kind of had to lock myself away in my room, or I would use the high school library. I would stay from like 4 until 6 every day. So I'd get my revision done at school because my house was a bit hectic. You know, not anyone's fault. I'm not going to tell people they have to be quiet. So I kind of had to make my own space. You know, and I was balancing sports. I played hockey, I played football. I wanted to do that as well. There are a lot of obstacles, but I made time for school, and school really trumped everything. So, you know, if I had a hockey game, but I didn't do my maths revision, well, the maths revision came first, and then the hockey came second, and stuff like that. So school's the priority.
I think another challenge was just feeling demotivated. I think it's really difficult sometimes to try and motivate yourself when it's been such a long stretch and it's getting towards the end. And one of the things I did, so I knew I wanted to go to the University of Kent, and when I went on the open day, so what I did was I stuck up pictures from the open day on my, like where I used to study, just on the screen. So whenever I was revising, I'd see the pictures from the open day at Kent, and that would motivate me to carry on because I knew I wanted to go there and I needed to get the grades to go in. So if you are feeling demotivated, think about what is it you want to achieve, what makes you want to finish your A-levels, and you know, you've worked hard so far, so just kind of that final stretch, finding what motivates you and then clinging onto that when it feels really difficult.
I can't really think of any. I get quite bad hay fever, so I had to dose myself up with the antihistamines when it came to the actual exam season.
Definitely, particularly over this FEMA period. I have seen the strength that these Year 13 students have got. I have been so proud of them over the last couple of weeks, with how they've dealt with it, how they've been resilient, how they've coped with the challenges that have been thrown their way. And I think from even talking to them, they're in a really good position in terms of knowing their areas of strength, knowing what they need to develop. So what I would say is really just keep going. It is that final push, and although it seems very, very soon, there is still time to turn things around and make those improvements that do need to be made.
Walk with your head held high as you go into that exam. I always feel like your kind of body language, your posture, that kind of makes you feel more confident even if you really don't feel it inside. So walk into that exam with your head held high. I'm going to go back to something that Mr. Holloway always used to say when I was working up in sixth form. You've got to do the mirror test before you go in an exam. So that means you have to look yourself dead in the eyes in a mirror before you walk in the exam. And if you can look yourself in the eye and say, yeah, I've done absolutely everything that I can, I've put all of the work in, then you will be absolutely fine in the exam. I'd also say try your best, just try your best, work your hardest, and that's all anybody can ask of you. That's something that my parents really instilled in me, just work hard and try your best, and that's all we can ask of you. And the final things that I would say, I've said this to a lot of my year 13s already, is if not now, when? If you keep waiting and waiting and waiting, I'll do that tomorrow, then the exams will be here before you know it. So if not now, when? And if not you, who? Are you going to let all your friends get all the A's and A stars, or are you going to hold your head up? Are you going to hold your head high, and are you going to absolutely smash this? So if not now, when? And if not you, who? All the best, year 13.
Year 13s, you have about 2 months left to your exams, and I think with all the hard work that you've done over the last year and a half, if you employ all these strategies and others that work for you, and plan this out really, really well, plan the next 8 to 10 weeks out really, really well, I think you can make a really good go of it. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all in August with some happy results. Good luck.
Stay calm, and you know your stuff, and you've worked so hard for all the years that I've known you. It's only natural that you're going to feel scared and worried and anxious, but you know your stuff, and you've got to go in with the attitude that you've got this, and everyone behind you, including me and all your teachers, know that you've got this, so keep going.
I think just remember why you're here, remember why you're doing this, and prepare so well for it that you do actually feel that it's an opportunity to show off the hard work and commitment that they've kind of put in to their A-levels. You only feel like that though when you really have tried your hardest. So all I would say is try your very best so that you have no regrets when you look back at this time. Show them what you know and can do, and if it's your best, then you've absolutely achieved what you've set out to. And I think that they just need to know that we are extremely proud of them, and we genuinely want them to do well. So I just wish them all the very best of luck, and I look forward to them coming back in years to come telling us how amazingly they're doing.
The most important thing is to remember that there are 60 odd days left. That might put the frighteners on some people, but that is actually quite a long period of time. That's over 2 months, and you can achieve an awful lot in 2 months. It's not too late. This thing can be done. There have been students I've taught here at Sydney Russell and at my previous school who've been in really bad shape in terms of their knowledge, their understanding, how much factual information they could recall, and yet they've done it. They've come out with decent grades at the end. So it's possible. Don't give up. If you're feeling like perhaps your VMAs didn't go very well, or you struggled with the process of the VMA, learn from that. Learn what didn't work, learn what did work, and just put it in, because you will get your reward. No one's going to give you anything in life. You've got to go and take it. So make sure you go and seize the day. Carpe diem over those next 67 days or 65 days, however long it is to your first exam. And remember that it is definitely possible.
You guys work so hard. You work really, really hard. And I think, it is difficult as it gets closer to the end, but I think this is when the work comes in more than ever. It's finding the balance between working but also not tiring yourself out to the point where you burn out before the actual exams. So seeking support, working together with other students if that helps you, finding what strategies work best for you, and also just trust in yourself. Just trust in the fact that you've been in lessons, you've been engaging with the content. So there's no reason why you can't, you can't do it. And I believe that you all can. All those sociologists in this assembly, I think it's assembly, I honestly believe you can. But also just all the year 13s in general, like just trust that you've got this and you will do well. And on results day, we'll all be smiling.
You want to be able to look yourself in the mirror in August when you see your results and know that you did your best. If you look in that mirror and say, I gave it my all, it does not matter what grade you get.
I really do feel that Year 13 have got this and that they can go into those exams and they can do incredibly well. So I wish them all the very best of luck with their revision and their prep over the next few weeks. And I just want them to know that we are all here to support them through those last steps of the journey as well.
You know, months and years later, I learned to. No, that's a cut. That part. Yeah, let's go again.